Absolutely. When I came here, Iran was in 14 to 18 different sites of confliction. They were extremely hostile. They were hostile when they signed the deal. They were screaming death to America. And I think probably Iran made a mistake. I would imagine it was a general or somebody that made a mistake in shooting that drone down. And fortunately, that drone was unarmed. There was no man in it, and it was over international waters, clearly over international waters, but we didn't have a man or woman in the drone. We had nobody in the drone.
Are you still open?
Would have made a big difference, let me tell you. Would have made a big, big difference. But I have a feeling, I may be wrong, and I may be right, but I'm right a lot. I have a feeling that it was a mistake made by somebody that shouldn't have been doing what they did. I think they made a mistake, and I'm not just talking to the country made a mistake. I think that somebody under the command of that country made a big mistake.
On this episode of Just Informed Talk, we're going to take a look at the latest story. A drone was shot down by the Iranians. President Trump has a lot to say about it, and we're going to speculate as to what it might mean and why it happened in the first place by looking back at some of the older Q posts. Plus, we're going to take a look at the media running cover for Joe Biden by putting out this hard-hitting piece about his son Hunter Biden's exploits. But we're going to take an even deeper dive that you guys are going to want to stick around to check out here. Hope you enjoy. Hi, I'm Craig, and welcome to another episode of Just Informed Talk. I always like to start by saying thank you to everybody who's hit that subscribe button, and especially thank you to everybody who's got us over 200,000 subscribers here. This is incredible, and we're still growing, so I guess we're on the march to 1 million. So if you want to help out with that, come here, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you develop notifications, and hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see me make more. So here we are. May 26th is the latest post we still have from Q, so we're pushing a month now since we've heard from Q, and like I said, I think we're expecting big things to be coming around July 4th. So with that being said, we're going to get right into the video. But before we do that, I always encourage everyone to come back here, watch these last few videos. If you want to get caught up on the news, what's going on, really great source of information. You just keep going back. You can watch as many as you want. Share them on your social media. Get the word out that way, because look, these videos aren't getting suggested, presumably because of who knows why, because they don't tell you why. But I could definitely tell you guys that when you hit that share button, it helps get the content out there. And if you scratch your head going, what is QAnon, the Great Awakening, and what's this guy talking about? Come here, watch this video. What is QAnon, the Great Awakening? Share them on your social media and get the word out that way. So today's video, as you guys saw in the open, there was a drone, an unmanned U.S. drone. I think it was a surveillance drone that was shot down by the Iranians. And this happened today. And what we're going to do is we're going to read a little bit from this AP article, because it kind of just covers what happened. It says, Iran's Revolutionary Guard shot down a U.S. surveillance drone Thursday in the Strait of Hormuz, marking the first time the Islamic Republic directly attacked the American military amid tensions over Tehran's unraveling nuclear deal with world powers. The two countries disputed the circumstances leading up to an Iranian surface-to-air missile bringing down the U.S. Navy RQ-4A Global Hawk, an unmanned aircraft with a wingspan larger than a Boeing 737 jetliner and costing over $100 million. Iran said the drone violated its territorial airspace, while the U.S. called the missile fire an unprovoked attack in international airspace over the narrow mouth of the Persian Gulf, and President Donald Trump tweeted that Iran made a very big mistake. So, look, this is obviously coming on the heels of what we all know happened in the Strait of Hormuz recently, where two oil tankers were attacked by the Iranians, allegedly, where they strapped mines to the side of them and tried to stall them, I guess. They weren't sunk, but they were definitely immobilized, and that was a big deal for destabilizing the safe passage through the Strait of Hormuz, which is, I think, the end goal of the Iranians. What they're trying to do here is they're trying to exert their influence over that small bit of international passage for ship liners, and they're trying to exert this pressure on the United States to effectively get what they are after, which is higher oil prices and an ability to circumvent these incredible sanctions that have been put on their country as a whole, which are causing some very, very dire situations in the country of Iran as compared to where they were, oh, I don't know, not too long ago when Obama was orchestrating the transfer of billions of dollars in pallets of cash to the Iranians, including billions of dollars in sanction relief. So through the JCPOA, the Iran deal. So let's read what Q told us all the way back in August of 2018 about the Iran deal, and this would kind of, I hope, refresh our memory as to why we're in this debacle with Iran and how it's continuing to escalate, and that the players involved are maybe not exactly who you think they are. As President Trump alluded to in the press conference that I showed you at the beginning of this, we're not even sure who was involved. It could have been just some rogue general, some jihadi general who had it out for the United States and is being either played by some extremist faction, or maybe there's some deep state influence there, some old leave behinds, people who are loyal to other causes other than what's good for their country. There could be a lot of explanations here, and I think President Trump wisely has taken that into account. So with that, I want to read this to you. It talks about how were the pallets of cash divided, how many planes were used to transport, who operated the planes, what shadow agency directed operations, CIA, why wasn't the money simply wire transferred, no paper trail, U.S. authority to open bank-to-bank transfers. How do you prevent financial transaction logs? How were the cash withdrawals in EU categorized, labeled? What time or where did the cash originate from? What time of day did the withdrawals occur? Who provided security? I think this was all like in the dead of night, and the cash obviously I think was taken out of the treasury, I'm sure, and it was taken out of but it was a specific branch of, I think, one of the mints, I think. I'd have to do some more research. If you guys know, let me know down in the comments on that one. But who provided security? Obviously, it was the clowns and or other, probably just hired personnel. It said, why wasn't Congress notified? Why was the government kept in the dark? U.S. law broken. So obviously, transferring that amount of money and not getting approvals from the individuals in Congress is a huge deal. Did all the planes land in the same location? Now, this is where it gets interesting, because Q alludes to the fact that all of the planes, there were multiple planes that had you think of $1.5 billion worth of cash. Just think about how much actual cash it is. We're talking pallets and pallets and pallets of cash, and it was in different denominations, as I recall. So it was in euros, and it was in pounds, and it was in dollars, and it was in all types of different actual currencies. And so it's talking about the fact that was there a helicopter involved? So was there a helicopter that took? Because imagine this: these people, they could have orchestrated this to say, all right, well, we'll give you $1.5 billion, and we'll take like 200 or 300 million, and we'll just put it in a chopper, and then we'll fly that out of the country, and it will go and get split up and put into different slush funds, which is something that we've talked about here on the channel before. The Q's alluded to the fact that individuals like Hussein and No Name and Pelosi and others have tens of millions of dollars in these slush funds, right? And what if, hypothetically, we, were to actually investigate some of these allegations more deeply, and maybe actually have a citizenry, or excuse me, because I think the citizenry cares, the media who cares about covering this kind of story and investigating and diving into it deeper and saying, well, you know what, it'd be pretty bad if there was a slush fund in Singapore with $29 million for Hussein. It'd be bad if No Name McCain had a slush fund set up there too. It'd be pretty bad if Nancy Pelosi has one set up, or Bill and Hillary have one set up down in Banco de Mexico. These things would be very bad, and the news doesn't seem to care enough to want to investigate that, because that might have been where the payoffs were going from this Iran deal, right? Talk about corrupt politicians. And the list goes on. Q hasn't told us every one, but he's alluded to the fact that it's possible that there could be those individuals involved. So here's where it gets interesting. It says, how do you audit foreign aid big block transfer? You can't. Who did the money actually go to? That's what we just talked about. And then look, did Rouhani keep unknown comms as insurance? So this is what we talk about when we get into the blackmail and extortion part of this. And I covered this on the channel here before. One of the videos that I have here with this Q News. Now this came out before this drone thing happened, and it came out before this mine thing happened. And this came out, I mean, obviously it came out way before. I was kind of rehashing and covering it again. But it's interesting to see that when the information gets out here and you see that people are starting to become aware of it, Iran has to see that and go, oh man, they know that we were trying to bribe and extort them. So now we don't have that leverage anymore, because they understand that the people understand of this country that was going on. So now they have to resort to other tactics, which include these mines and shooting down drones. Now, I'm not saying that what I'm reporting here has anything to do with that. All I'm saying is they're making these same realizations as we are, and the information is coming out regardless of whether they like it or not. So that's really what I think is very interesting. And so you go back to the actual post here, and it talks about did he keep unknown comms for insurance? Meaning, were there communications made with him that established that this Iran deal would not only, put a bunch of money in a slush fund for politicians on our side of the deal, but also put a bunch of money in his slush fund that the people of Iran don't know about, right? So they're all basically in this together, and he would keep those conversations private, obviously, and then use those as blackmail to say, well, if you expose me, I'll expose you, and we'll all be in trouble. This is how these deals usually work anyway. And then it says what agency collects all forms of data. So obviously the NSA had this information, and then it talks about Snowden. So what was Snowden sent in to do? And we've talked about this before. If you read through this whole thing, what it basically says, the timing is everything here. When did Edward Snowden expose the programs that the NSA was using to collect data? It was in 2013 when Hillary Clinton was the Secretary of State, and the Iran deal was being pushed through, and it was all a cover for the Iran deal. So they've alleged here that Edward Snowden was working for the clowns in action. Take the first first letter of each word. Clowns in action, you'll know what I mean. And he was trained at the farm originally. Then he was planted in the NSA to steal by presumably John Brennan and other deep state actors that were a part of the Hussein administration and working at the behest of Hussein and Clinton and the rest. That basically Snowden was put into the NSA to steal that information, to leak it, so it would temporarily blind the NSA so that they could effectively pull off the greatest heist in known to mankind, stealing billions of dollars from the American taxpayers and giving it to literally what we now know on a daily basis. I mean, we can see a country that has complete disdain for our country, would like to wipe Israel off the map, has literally a chance in their streets, death to America. And they're one of the biggest global sponsors of terror. So this is like beyond me. But why did it happen? Q's already told us that too. The EU sanctions in Iran. This is all a part of the EU too, because it's not just America. It's Merkel. It's the rest of the EU, aristocracy. These EU sanctions were also meant to be lifted through this Iran deal. So it says leaders of the EU only care about protecting the flow of money, not the safety and security of their people, world. So we have this aristocracy, protected class who live in their castles, literally, in most cases in Europe, who don't care about your safety. They care about making millions and billions of dollars, right? So the Iran deal orchestrated for the sole purpose of lifting sanctions so that they could have access, those rich oligarchical, aristocratic blue bloods could have access to foreign businesses for individual and the rest of the enrichment, or for them to enrich themselves, I should say. It's a scam. Like Q's saying here, I'm kind of reading this and going through it, but it's saying it has nothing to do with nukes. It was pallets of cash being sent to be split up amongst them all. And this is incredible that nobody wants to touch this story with a 10-foot pole. And I'm sitting here like screaming at the top of my lungs going, we need to cover this. And then Iran starts, putting mines on stuff and, shooting down drones because they know that we know. So they know that we know. So that's where we're at. Of course, a few other stories that we're going to go through here on the channel today. We're going to talk about Hunter Biden. Now, I think this is definitely a worthwhile thing to look at. A couple times that Q's talked about Biden were in context of this right here, where it talks about Biden and China is very important marker. And this was just basically all going through the fact that China and they're working with big tech and all, like, because we've already uncovered Project Dragonfly, which was the censored search engine being put together by Google for the Chinese Communist Party, presumably that could be used to continue to violate human rights in their country even further. And then you have other dealings with big tech and the Chinese Communist Party. And then we have this example of Joe Biden flying his son over to China, then making big concessions for China with their military bases in the fake islands in the South China Sea and their 9-line claim of the South China Sea, which basically removed most other territorial claims and most of the international water that had been established there. So this to me is really important, because then a week later or so, Hunter Biden walks out of China and gets a deal for his company for $1.5 billion. I think it was a hedge fund or something to that effect that was being offered by the Bank of China. And of course now, wow, the ABC News is picking up this story. I'll tell you what, I don't think the video is still up on the channel anymore, but I know for a fact that I've done stories years ago. We're talking back in like 4 years ago, 2015, which specifically talked about the connection between Hunter Biden and Christopher, I think it was Christopher Hines, the stepson to Joe Biden, the stepson to John Kerry, and his connection with a guy named Devon Archer and their group, Rosemont Seneca, which was involved in this Burisma Holdings, which Hunter Biden got named to the board of directors on. And I was doing this story 4 years ago. I remember, I know I did like 4 videos on it, and I've taken them down since because they were really old and they needed to be updated. But I have them probably somewhere, and literally I have it's Devon Archer. I think his name's Christopher Hines, and because John Kerry's married to the Heinz heiress for Heinz ketchup, so their son Chris Heinz was involved with Hunter Biden and Devon Archer in this Rosemont Seneca, which was basically a group that they had established, which was a entity that they were using to work with this Burisma Holdings, which was a corrupt, defunct oil company in Ukraine, which hired Hunter Biden to come onto their board, I think, for either $500,000 or $1 million a year. And this story now, let's see, 4 years later, is being picked up by ABC News. This is how the mainstream media works. See, they'll ignore a story until it's you can't ignore it anymore without them looking literally complicit in the cover-up, because they're such hacks, they're such propagandists, they're such fake news, just complete liars. And they lie through omission, and they lie through their teeth, and they don't report the news, and they wonder why people look for information in other sources and why their ratings are going through the floor. So, of course, Hunter Biden's got his own history. This apparently is a story that just was put up by Patrick Howley over at Big League Politics, talking about Hunter Biden blamed his Ashley Madison account on the Russians, has been sued for paternity. So remember, this guy, Hunter Biden, Joe Biden's son, was kicked out of the U.S., I think it was the Naval Reserve, for testing positive for cocaine. So obviously he's a cokehead. And, or that would be the inference you could make based off of that fact. Maybe he's changed. I'm not going to presume anything. But you have that. Then you have the fact that he's working with China to get these seedy deals. His dad's threatening to get prosecutors, fired in Ukraine. They go to investigate him in Burisma, and then China getting him $1.5 billion loan or investment after he goes there and makes these huge concessions. And it's just Joe Biden's not smart. I think this is really what it comes down to. But Joe Biden's son, Hunter, is getting sued for paternity by a woman in Arkansas. And of course, this comes from Page 6, saying that an Arkansas woman claims Hunter Biden is the father of her child, and she's suing to prove it. So she's petitioned, and now she's going to court, and we'll see what happens there. But if you did not know, which would be a good thing to not know, that Ashley Madison was, I believe, a website where people went to cheat on their spouses, which I think is despicable, and it's just a sign of how evil and just satanic our culture has continued to devolve into with this modern progressivism, where they talk that they've ruined our culture by making these things so readily available. But that is a whole aside to this, which is just an interesting story that came out. And of course, you have the former Ukrainian prosecutor who was fired, saying that there was no doubt that Joe Biden forced me out to protect Hunter Biden. So when Joe Biden threatened to withdraw aid, U.S. aid, taxpayer money, not his money, your money, our money, we the American people's money, he withheld that money from Ukraine to basically force Ukraine to violate what would be considered their law by firing a prosecutor who was going to expose the criminal, corrupt nature of Hunter Biden's relationship with Burisma Holdings, LLC, I think, the oil company. So that's where we're at, guys. And of course, to go into other news here before we go, just to touch on a few things. NXIVM calls daycare centers. I'll leave a link to this if you guys want to read this, but they were doing these human experiments on children, apparently, and this is just coming out again from Patrick Collier with Big League Politics. And here's the problem. When you read about this, you go, oh my gosh, this is insane, but that's what these people were involved in. They would turn their kids over to these cult leaders, and they would have these kind of like Clockwork Orange, where they would make kids watch, sick graphic content, and they would also, expose kids to multiple individuals who weren't their parents to see how they would react over a long period of time, and to put them in positions where they're having people speak to them in several different languages a day in order to and it drove a lot of these kids crazy. And they're called the Rainbow Cultural Garden. That's what it is. That was the name of their child care organization or whatever, daycare center. So this is coming to light now, and that's just wow. And here's one more thing before we go. Liveaction.org, one of my favorite new websites now that Pinterest has decided to go after all Christians and people who are pro-life. So Live Action's great. They say that there's been a major blow to Planned Parenthood because the appeals court lets Trump defund the abortion providers as lawsuits continue. So apparently a court ruled today that President Trump could withdraw funding from Planned Parenthood. And this is a huge step in the right direction. The state should never be involved in financing any type of organization that is involved in a practice such as abortion. And I believe abortion, in my opinion, should be illegal anyway. And that's just my personal opinion. I believe it is murder. I believe it should be illegal. But I think this is a huge step in the right direction, because what Q has told us about Planned Parenthood is something we need to remember. Don't forget, Planned Parenthood funnels the money that they get from taxpayer dollars back into the Democratic Party. So it's totally a corrupt system. The Democrats, they lobby for all this funding for Planned Parenthood, and then Planned Parenthood turns around and spends tens of millions of dollars of financing the campaigns of these corrupt politicians so that they can continue to kill babies and sell their body parts, allegedly. Which is what it looks like if you look at a lot of the tapes. So, look, I'm done with this organization. The quicker that we can make this a federal law, the better to get rid of it. That's just my personal opinion. So you guys can make of that what you will. And I would encourage everyone to go check that out. So that's pretty much going to wrap it up for today's episode. A few more things before we go. Obviously, come here, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications, hit the like button. If you guys like this content, want to see me make more, watch these videos, share them on your social media, and don't forget to leave your thoughts, theories, and insights below, because I want to hear what you guys have to say about all of the stuff that we covered here on today's episode of Just Informed Talk. With that being said, a few other ways you can help out the channel. Come over here, find me on Twitter at JustInformYou on Twitter. You can get all my funny, clever, cool, tweets and just thought-provoking stuff. And it's a good place to have a conversation outside the channel. So I really encourage everyone to go over there and check that out. Also, come check out justinformednews.com, the official website for Just Informed Talk. And you can check out all the different Q sites here, you have news sites, you have breaking news, and of course the latest videos from the channel here as well. So it's a good it's a good tool for you guys to go use. Also, I have a new channel up. You guys should go check out and subscribe to it. It is the Just Informed podcast. So we're going to be coming with a little bit different content, a little bit of behind the scenes to the channel here, some more long form interviews, and just other content that wouldn't normally be on the channel. And I hope you guys come check this out. There'll be a link in the description, and you just come here, hit the subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications so you get notified when the new content comes up, because it's going to be posting there about once a week or so for now as I get it going. So a couple other ways you can help out. Come find me on Patreon at JustInform, or patreon.com/JustInformedTalk. It's a crowdfunding website. You come here, it's a monthly donation. You click this button to become a patron, and your support is what keeps this channel alive. Trust me, with all the demonetization, all the stuff that goes on with YouTube, it just is a part of life. And, you know, I've come to accept it. And the only reason I've been able to stay alive and keep this channel going and to even expand and make new channels is because of your support here on Patreon. So when you do it, just know you're helping create content here on a regular basis. Also, I have GoFundMe set up for anybody who's interested. Basically, all you could do is if you want to make a one-time or anonymous donation, that's why I have this set up. So links to this will be in the description, and links to everything we've talked about here on the channel today will be in the description. So I hope you guys go down and check that out. If you want to learn more, read more, get more information, share those on your social media or whatever. So before we go, we do a segment at the end of each one of these episodes called God's Grace is Greater, where we talk about God's grace and how it is truly greater. And for today, I want to read this psalm to you. It's Psalm 62, and it's talking about trusting God alone. And these words, I hope that they resonate with you and help you as they help me. But it's Psalm 62, the whole psalm. It says, I am at rest in God alone. My salvation comes from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold. I will never be shaken. How long will you threaten a man? Will all of you attack as if he were a leaning wall or a tottering stone fence? They only plan to bring him down from his high position. They take pleasure in lying. They bless with their mouths, but they curse inwardly. Rest in God alone. My soul, for my hope comes from him. He alone is my rock and my salvation, my stronghold. I will not be shaken. My salvation and glory depend on God. My strong rock, my refuge, is in God. Trust in him at all times, you people. Pour out your hearts before him. God is our refuge. Men are only a vapor, exalted men an illusion. On a balanced scale they go up, together they weigh less than a vapor. Place no trust in oppression or false hope in robbery. If wealth increases, pay no attention to it. God has spoken once. I have heard this twice. Strength belongs to God, and faithful love belongs to you, Lord. For you repay each according to his works. And so those words, when you read them together, remind me, I think, and I hope they remind us all, that putting trust in God is what matters. I love the part there where it says men are only a vapor. And exalted men, meaning men who seem that they're in higher positions, so the icons or whatever, they're exalted men are just an illusion, because none of us are higher than God. And without God, we are nothing. And that's the message we need to put out there. And remember that we trust in the Lord. And that's all. That's what will save us. That if we make sure that we remember that the Lord is our rock and our salvation, and that we are saved through him, and that the world doesn't matter. I love another part I love in this psalm is where it says, if wealth increases, pay no attention to it. Don't worry about the material gain that whatever you get in this world. It's okay to have it, but it's not what your life is about. Your life must be about God and spreading his word and giving that to your family and friends and loved ones, your sons and daughters, your fathers and mothers, your brothers and sisters. Put that light in their heart, and they will be eternally grateful as we are eternally grateful to God for his gift that he's given to us through the blood and sacrifice of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. So that's where I'm going to leave it. I want to say thank you for watching this episode of Just Informed Talk. Remember, come here, click the big red subscribe button, make sure you hit the bell for notifications, and hit the like button if you guys like this content and want to see more. That's going to be it for me. Thanks for watching Just Informed Talk. My name is Craig. Godspeed, and God bless each and every one of you, Patriots.